it's a new week, which means only one thing. Well, it means a lot of things, but it means this. It's a brand new edition of the Stokastic Hall of Fame, where we induct all of our closest friends rocking the Stokastic avatar into the Hall of Fame, and in the process, give out some free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum subscriptions. All you got to do to get in on this is go to stokastic.com/avatar, download the avatar, use it wherever it is. DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, doesn't matter. Tweet your wins when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more to @Stokastic HOF. It's Stokastic Hall of Fame, and get yourself a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Get yourself up here on the board, and we'll do the bragging for you. Let's get into it. First up, Alex Baker. Oh, our boy Awesemo himself. This is why it's important to have projections to go to the second decimal point, taking down 75K. And that was only a couple days after he tweeted, "The haters will say you only won because you entered 3 lineups." Another 20K victory there for Alex. Then you got Kenny Herron. Got bumped out at first with a Paul George game-winning shot in the last game of the night. But hey, back at it again today. 3rd place in the mini-max. Solid showing for you, Kenny. And then you got Joe. How about Joe? A trifecta of top 3 NBA DFS finishes across these different sites. People bash these small sites, but I've been having a ton of luck. Shout out to Stokastic.com. $1,000, $500, another $400 win there. And then you got Jacob. You guys put me on fields today thanks to Eric Lindquist. My best day of the year. Thanks to the whole Stokastic team for the help and free content you guys put out. Yeah, massive day. What's that, $56,000? 3 different contests. Huge day, Jacob. Congrats. And then, biggest DFS night ever. Nearly took down the 4-point play. Thanks to the crew for the help. Easily the best site out there. Yes, agreed. Omar with the $4,000 win. And it follows it up with Jordan. Awesome stuff. Tools pointed me right to Goddard Captain. Keep this hot streak going. A $700 victory there. And Byron Paulson. Thanks for the awesome content. Hopefully I'll get to the top spot soon. What else? Tanner's Clutch. Best tools in the DFS world. 2nd in the nickel on FanDuel, or the piggy bank shot. Yeah, 5 cents into 150. Looks pretty nice, fella. And then we've got, how about Underdog 89? 1st place, 2,000 with the Miami stack. Chalky lineup, but hey, got it done. And that's all that matters. And then been a good week in the mini max and the $1 20 max on DraftKings. Shout out to the best tools in the game. 1,500 and 375. And we close this one out with Johnston. Fun night. Appreciate everything you guys do. 2nd place in the windmill. Remember, download the avatar at stokastic.com/avatar. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF on Twitter. Get your free month. You've all been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And for those of you who've been there before, welcome back.
buddy?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good. Good.
Just took my dog for a walk.
picks. Absolutely. Welcome in. Happy Monday, everybody. Now, normally Monday for the rest of the world is the beginning of the work week. For us, it's the end of the work week when it comes to No House Advantage. So for Geoff, I'm Eytan. Mike's producing. We appreciate all of you hanging with us. And this is the NHA Hour. Two of us have you in the NFL, Monday Night Football, and then it's Emac and Terry for the NBA. So, Geoff, we don't have a ton of time. How are you? First and foremost, you're standing upright. The dog, the kid, nobody kicked your ass today. That's a good sign.
No, look, I mean, I survived. I took my dog out for a walk in a blinding snowstorm. If I can survive that, man, we can survive this Monday Night Football.
Blinding snowstorm.
Yeah, it's really ugly up where I live right now. It goes from 0 to 100 real quick up here in winter. So,
wow, I didn't realize that.
No, it's ugly.
It's just the entire. See, if you get rain, like I lived in Nashville. No offense to anybody watching, pardon me, in Nashville, but you know this is true. Like, you know, you get a couple of drops of rain, the whole city shuts down. You guys up there, you're pretty much seasoned to this. So what happens when you get like 15 inches of snow? Is it expected? Like, hey, man, come on, show up to work.
Oh, dude, we don't shut down unless it's like, no, you mean, you got to, look, we went through a stretch where it was, you know, I don't even know what it was in Fahrenheit. It was 30 degrees Celsius for about minus 30 degrees Celsius for about over a week. And, you know, people just move on with their lives and wonder why they live here while they do it. So
I love it, my friend. All right, well, let's dive into it here. Interesting Monday night game, I think, to start at the very least, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you look at overall as far as like the game flow? So I'll just give you an example. I'm on Baltimore. I got in -3. I jumped in again. When it dropped to -1, I pushed it back up to -3 and basically got a bet boost because I'm so confident in this. I'm not confident in Andy Dalton. I'm not confident in that offense. I'm not confident in Dennis Allen. And I'm not confident that this team can slow down Lamar Jackson and that Greg Roman offense the first time that they've seen it in both New Orleans and Dennis Allen's history. So I am as far of a magnet on the Baltimore Ravens as possible. But as you know, doing shows with me, Geoff, I am wrong many a times. So I'm curious to see where you are.
This is going to be one show when this doesn't happen very often with us. I am on the Saints tonight. I think they're a big public favorite. I like the way that their defense has typically been slow to get it going during the years, and their defense can dominate at homes when they do get it going. Still got a good defensive line. Their secondary can't play any worse, and they're going up against a team with no wide receivers and no Mark Andrews. So I get like where you're coming from. I don't like the idea of backing Andy Dalton in this spot, but I think with Olave and Kamara, I think that the Ravens may get shown up here tonight. Honestly, it's an interesting Monday Night Football game. I think this is actually a pretty good matchup here. Just a couple interesting teams with all the injuries and stuff. There's opportunities here on No House too, guys. You know, we could start with, like I said, the Ravens wide receiver position, just the receivers in general. I mean, James Proche out there, we got a 1.5 reception line. It's hitting as like a really big overplay. It's probably my favorite play on the slate. Proche is a guy who's been with the Ravens for a while. He played over 60% of the snaps last week. I mean, Devin Duvernay is the play that like everyone knows and is going to be out there. But I mean, Proche is the secondary receiver. That should lead to some good opportunities. Be pretty shocked if you didn't get 5 or 6 targets here. I got an easy one to start off high up in your lineups. James Proche should be seeing 3 or 4 catches here, like easy.
Yeah, that's a nice one at 10-9, right? Just to start off, or 7, right, on the Monday night slate. So definitely something at the top. You did mention, and Proche is great because I don't think he's going to be a heavily owned guy in NHA. And if people are getting to him, it's going to be similar to where maybe there's just like, who the hell is James Proche? Let me just fade him. 1.5, he probably won't see the field. So just that expert right there, or just that extra, I should say, look at him is great, especially putting him at the top. You did mention, though, as far as Duvernay would be the obvious one. Do you think the contrarian play on Duvernay is to just stay away from him or to fade him?
I think you can fade him, to be honest. I mean, it really just comes down to, like, Devin Duvernay is not a number 1 wide receiver. I mean, like, he's fine. I mean, he's a good kick returner. He's been with the Ravens for a bit, but like asking him to step in a road game against the Saints, I know their secondary has been bad, but It's also a team that just shut down Devontae Adams. Now you're asking Devin Duvernay to act as the number one wide receiver. Like that's a tough spot. I will not be shocked if he kind of puts up a stinker tonight, and maybe like Lamar has to rely on like Isaiah Likely and some of these other guys to move the ball. So I think Devin Duvernay is like, if I was looking to fade a Baltimore player, that's probably it. I know we have like lower props on some of the other guys, but Duvernay's still got a 40-yard prop. We actually have this projected as pretty neutral. So it's not like, again, this isn't what you call like a smash over. Like we really don't have him projected for much more. And I think that's exactly why we don't have him projected for much more, because, you know, even in spots where he's had a chance to rise up with targets, like he's never really taken that role. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think he's going to get like 10 targets here. And you're going to see a Baltimore offense that really tries to run the ball, like even more than usual, and just tries to hide the fact that they don't have any wide receivers. So I think Duvernay is actually a very good fade target. He's going to be a popular overplay, I think.
Yeah, you're right. And just for those out there, I mean, you're looking at 40.5 receiving yards, 3.5 receptions, which even that low number, and this is where I agree with you, and look, I have, from a betting standpoint, I don't give a rat's ass how they win this football game. Like it could be a couple of safeties and I'll take it for sure. But in this case of where we're talking about just rostering guys on NHA, that number, I think, and again, I'm just guessing, but not like total guess, like educated guess for how people work this. I think people look at that, Geoff, and just to your point, they say, oh, 3.5, that's easy. Yeah. There's nobody else out there. Yeah. It's going to be hard, I think, for Lamar Jackson to pepper one of these guys, not so much on Lamar, Geoff, but more so just none of these guys are, hey, you don't worry, I'll get open. None of these guys are like that, right? Like route running top end guys. So that's where I guess the concern would be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're gonna see like tight end fours get targets tonight, right? Like, you know, I mean, so it's, you know, the fullback will probably have a couple targets. I don't think that anyone's popping up here with like 8 or 9 targets, which again makes Duvernay to me like a really, I mean, he could obviously go over this as well. Sure. There's certainly a scenario where you play for a shootout, you take over Lamar, you take over Duvernay, but I mean, I think as a good fade candidate, that's going to be a popular over target, the Duvernay ones. And again, we got free projections, guys, for no host advantage. And I'm just relying on the projections here. The projections say this is like a coin flip. There's really no edge in taking the over. So I think that just makes it a good spot to take the under with the leverage we'll be getting on the field, which should be heavily on the over here, in my opinion.
You can't have your side play out. You can't have Andy Dalton and this New Orleans Saints side play out without something on Dalton. I mean, look, we have a 61.2 in our free projections, as Geoff just indicated. Again, we'll even match your first deposit over at NHA up to $50. Use our promo code Stokastic. And what if we asked in return that you hang with us for free, you hit the thumbs up button, and you subscribe if you're not already? So, yeah, I mean, what are we doing? This is your guy, at least for the night, okay? Like, I don't know if you realize this, but by picking the Saints on this show, you are now Andy Dalton and I am now Lamar Jackson. So you got to defend it, brother.
I know. It's true. I've adopted Andy Dalton for the night. I already regret my decision.
You have better hair, though. I will say that.
Slightly.
242 and a half.
Like, and again, like the Andy Dalton 242 and a half, again, we're looking at the projections. I think it's absolutely fine to lean on that and say under. There's a lot of scenarios where even if my prediction is right, the Saints win this game like 24-10. They stop the passing game of the Ravens. They rely on Alvin Kamara, some short dump off passes. Maybe they even get like a couple of turnovers, and then they just, you know, keep a cap on this game. So I think that there's more scenarios where Dalton does go under, and this is a big number. I mean, compared to what we're seeing across the industry. So it'll be a popular play, but much like I don't mind taking the under on Duvernay, I think that you should have some exposure to scenarios where we see the Saints offense kind of like ramp it up. The Saints offense has been pretty good. Like they've moved the ball. The reason they've lost a couple games, and I mean, obviously they're coming off a big win, but like, you know, it's just their defense couldn't get it together. Now the defense is together though. So, you know, if Lamar does come out, and you're right, and the Ravens run it around the yard, I think Dalton has it in them to go over this. I mean, the Ravens secondary, and another reason why I do like the Saints, like I think Chris Olave can get off here big time. So that could easily push Dalton. Like a play I like for GPPs is Olave overs with a Dalton over. I think those two correlate extremely well. If Olave's going out there putting up 100 yards or just like catching the long touchdown pass, like Dalton's probably going to push for the over here. So I think those are two very correlated plays, probably the most correlated plays on the slate offensively. Like, again, I mean, Duvernay could go over his total, but like that may not help Jackson much if he gets 45 yards. If Olave is going over, there's a chance he gets like 110 yards against this defense. So that would really push Dalton. So Dalton's an interesting play. Again, I'm not saying like this is a lock, like go, like put him in all your lineups over, but it's being sensible about it. If you're looking for a contrarian move, I think the Dalton over with Olave over is definitely something I'd want exposure to.
Yeah, in looking at that, I think there might be a nice correlation. The yards are a little tricky, but I think to your point about Dalton and correlating that with Olave, there might be an easy fade on receptions for Jarvis Landry, or an easier, especially because he's questioned. Now, again, if the guy's out that's a different story out there. You're not going to outsmart no house advantage, folks. Right? If you play a guy who's out, you just ain't going to get shit for it. So don't do that. But if Landry is playing through injury, I love the narrative that you just laid out there because it makes the most sense about Dalton relying on Olave more than anybody else. It might just leave that 3.5 out there to kind of fade for Landry.
And something else with the Saints, like Adam Troutman's back. They've been running a lot of tight end sets. Juwan Johnson has been getting targets. I think that hurts Landry. Like, it doesn't hurt Olave. It hurts Landry. We have Landry surprisingly projected for like less than 3.5 receptions. He's actually decent underplay. So I like that one. Again, you could look to pair, Landry with Dalton as well. But like, if you're taking the over on passing yards with Dalton, you've got to go over Olave. I don't even know if there's a scenario where Dalton goes over and Olave doesn't, but like those are few and far between. Like that's not going to happen that often, maybe 10% of the time. Most of the time, those two are going over together. So, and potentially Kamara as an underplay along with those guys. Because we only have rushing yards on Kamara. We don't have receiving yards. I know he caught like 1 billion passes in his last game, but we don't even have the receiving props on him. So you could look to do a triple correlation there. The Ravens rush defense, definitely the more solid part of their defense. And it won't shock me if Kamara does go under. He is projected as a really solid underplay at 69.5. So
yeah, that's not terrible. And I mean, as far as where our projection is to where Kamara's line is, right? You mentioned the 58 and then the 69.5. Look, it's got to just be the Ravens rush defense because I just can't see either team truly being out of this football game. Yeah. Right. And think about how bad it needs to be for New Orleans to not even give Kamara a run or two just because, like when you have that level of running back, you can still run down 10, down 13 in heavy pass situations, even if it's just 1 or 2 in the event that you can break, meaning it doesn't just redline him in those spots. Look, I like the play as far as going under 69.5 overall, but I'm a little shocked that our projections have him so low, if that makes sense.
And I'm kind of with you. Like I thought it was a little bit low as well. You look at the Saints' usage of Kamara, and they gave him 18 touches last week, but that was in a shutout. Generally, they've been like, they haven't given him huge workloads throughout the year, and I think that's probably what's worked into it. I think there's a little bit of suspicion that he may only get 12 to 13 carries. And he may get 10 targets again. Like he's going to get used. I mean, he's going to get 20 touches in this game, but I think there's some suspicion. And I think the projections are kind of telling us that like, it won't come necessarily all as a rusher, especially in this matchup. And I kind of tend to agree with that. Again, like, I think Kamara is actually, I like the Saints side in this game for the props, because I think it's actually a pretty easy play. If you're going to take the over on Olave and Dalton, you definitely go the under on Kamara. But if you're going to go with the over on Kamara, which is fine, he could get 20 carries in this game and go over. He could break a 40-yard, 50-yard run and go over. I think that it correlates very well with the Dalton over under, because if Kamara is getting off as a rusher, the Saints they're going to have a lead at some point, and it's just going to mean a few less passes for Dalton. And it's not like Andy Dalton is averaging like 20 yards a throw here or something. So I think there's a good chance that Kamara goes over and we see Dalton push to an easy under on his total. So I really like the way the Saints players correlate. They seem to be a pretty easy one to kind of put together, I think. And I think that gives you a good core to work off of, because we have some pretty obvious props on the Ravens side. I mentioned Prosh, but like Kenyon Drake, 40.5 rush yard. That's lower than across the industry. So, No House giving us one that's a lot lower for once. Than usually they give us props that are higher and make us choose, but Kenyon Drake is lower. So, we got some pretty easy ones to cherry pick from the Ravens side, and then we can correlate 2 or 3 guys on the Saints, in my opinion.
Yeah, you just mentioned Drake. That's a smash for us on the over. Again, I mentioned the gap between Kamara's line at 69.5 and the projection we have on Stokastic at 58.3. It's even wider for Drake, whose line is 40.5, 58. I mean, if you wanted to get bold, you can build off that and maybe ladder him if you were betting, but that's 60 yards or so on the ground is a heavy smash for what his line is on NHA. And I guess that also correlates to Baltimore involved in this football game, right? Because the only way in which Kenyon Drake doesn't get carries enough to get to 60 yards is if Baltimore's getting blown out.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't have much option, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like Kenyon Drake isn't good. So, I mean, like, I guess he could go for 15 carries and 40 yards or something and get just hit the under, but it's gonna be pretty tough for him to hit the under if this is a close game. Even if the Saints, or even if the Ravens are down 7 at some point, they're still gonna run. So
right.
And Drake's gonna be out there a ton. Yeah, I think that for the Ravens to really not get Drake to the over here, we're gonna have to see Kamara take control of this game early, maybe a turnover quick. And Drake just to kind of get game flowed out, maybe just working as a passer more. So Drake feels pretty safe as well. Like I said, I like that Prosh prop a lot. I think he's going to be out there for quite a few snaps. I think he's probably, again, project for 5-6 targets potentially. And, those are 2 guys you can also build around as well. If I was going to look at fading one, again, I might create one contrarian lineup with Kenyon Drake as an under, maybe put it real high, get over on the field, because I think most of the field will be looking at the Drake prop as just a free square, which always creates a lot of leverage.
Absolutely.
You can maybe get over on 70% of the field. So interesting play there. Don't burn too many lineups or entries with it, but I would definitely be looking to create at least one little hedge kind of lineup with Drake as an under.
Yeah. And that's just kind of looking at it now, final couple of minutes or so as we stretch this to the NBA version with Emac and Terry coming up. What's the best, what's the heaviest contrarian? Like we talked about Devin Duvernay, who's going to be a public, very heavy favorite. Lamar Jackson, I think especially, well, not as much, I think, because you can't play rushing yards, so maybe passing yards, but Traquan Smith, we have his projections under 2.5. We also have him not as heavily projected under for receiving yards. So somebody like that, if you're building multiple lineups and you were looking for a guy that you could fade not only the field, but our field as well, which is a tough kind of middle to land on, going over on Smith's props might be one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Traquan Smith actually correlates pretty well with Andy Dalton going over as well. I mean, he's more of a downfield guy. He could definitely pop up with a 30-yard catch. So maybe, again, if you're thinking about the Andy Dalton play, I think it obviously goes well with Olave, but I think adding Traquan Smith in as the third wheel, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. If Smith goes over his receiving yards, he's probably catching a 30-40 yard pass. That's really going to pad Dalton's totals. So that's a good play. I kind of forgot about him, to be honest. We were talking about Landry, but another one where I think, again, the field probably will just be looking either just to not play him even, or just take the under on the 2.5, because he's been very inconsistent. Landry could still play, but he's not 100%. Kamara took so many catches last week. So yeah, Traquan, absolutely. I think that's another good one to kind of take potentially the other side. And again, it just works in so well with a couple of other Saints players as well. So,
all right, brother. By the way, it's Gun coming up, not Terry. So Gundacker and Emac. Now so I didn't want you to be disappointed when you were waiting. Not that you would be disappointed to see Gundacker by any means. I'm just saying, no. For you out there thinking, all right, now I get to watch Terry McBride make an ass of himself. Maybe that's what you were excited about.
Right. Yes. Always excited for that. I mean, but no, it's Gundacker. I mean, I like to see what Gundacker has in the background and stuff. He's always got the colorful backgrounds going on. So now I'm super excited.
There you go. I love it, man. Let's see. It's a shame that Josh Oliver isn't in here because we put him out on the Discord, on the Odd Shopper Discord as a bomb to catch 1 and 2 TDs. Let me tell you something. If this guy catches 2 TDs, I'll personally pay for somebody to shovel out your driveway up there. All right.
What hours are we getting here for Oliver?
All right. So I jumped in. This was yesterday. Josh Oliver anytime is plus 550. If he scores 2, I'll turn 25 into 1375.
Okay.
So look, he's just out there, right? And I think everybody, we can't play him on NHA, so it's moot. But I was just saying, like, everybody thinks they're not going to throw to the tight end position because Mark Andrews isn't there, which probably will happen. Hence, this guy plus 5,500 to score 2 touchdowns.
Hey, Josh Oliver was a pretty high draft pick at one point, and he's playing a lot of snaps. So like you said, he's going to be on the field. That is a huge plus in this game.
You never know, my friend. Never know. Anybody else that we did not hit? I mean, we hit Jarvis Landry. We touched on Jamar Jackson. You know, Juwan Johnson is an interesting cat. Unfortunately for him, it looks pretty sharp as far as like where his numbers are. Maybe there's some wiggle room with the 2.5 receptions, but look, he's also been a guy who has benefited with Andy Dalton.
Yeah, he has. Juwan Johnson, you're right. Like his numbers are pretty sharp. Like you said, there's not a huge lean either way. I would say just because I know like Adam Troutman's going to be back out there, and he's taking some reps, and Johnson obviously coming off the big performance in the last primetime game the Saints had. He's probably, I would be looking to fade him for that reason alone. I think that the field will look, oh, Juwan Johnson, he was awesome last time, paid off. Again, like the targets, they're going to be a little bit more spread at tight end, I think. And obviously Kamara's out there. We still got, I mean, we just brought up Traquan Smith. Like there's still actually a lot of options out there for the Saints, even with no Mike Thomas. So I think Johnson actually, with the primetime sentiment being what it was, and again, people just seeing him on there again, I think that it's probably a good fade candidate. I think there'll be a lot of overplays on Johnson. So again, nothing against the player. He's a good big target. Like you say, he's benefited from Dalton, but in a 1-game scenario here with the strategy and the game theory involved, yeah, I think that's probably a good fade one for me.
Awesome, brother. Anything else we need to get out before we get out?
No, man. I mean, I'm just happy to gloat on Friday when the Saints win, and you know.
Oh, don't think I forgot about this. All right. Now, the only thing that would make up for that would be like if the Ravens win tonight, but you give us, I don't know, Nick Hardy or some crazy mother coming out here this week.
Sahith Theegala is where we're going to go for golf today.
Again?
Yeah, we're going back to Sahith.
Look, I just don't want him to become the next Maverick McNeely, which is
no, he's way better than Maverick McNeely.
Okay,
don't compare. Don't compare.
No, not the golfer, not the golfer. I meant like this is the week it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah. No, it won't be. No, I promise that if Theegala doesn't get it done this week, I won't be bringing him up for a while. Mainly because there's no golf for a while. But yeah.
All right. Always plenty of football, and we'll be back. You and Pete back on Thursday, and make sure you rip the shit out of me. Don't even wait until Friday, all right, if this happens. We'll see you all out there at the Fantasy Grind. How you follow Geoff on Twitter at Shander Show for me. Thanks to Mike, as always, for producing. It is EMAC and Gundacker right now. NHA still, but from the NFL to the NBA.